Hey there, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. I had a little trouble getting going. Yeah, so we'll do a quick update on a few things going on. Kind of haven't been doing too much. So we'll do, just going to hang out, play a little video game here for a bit. Then what I'll do is I'll go do a little stock update, see what's going on in the stock market. It's kind of like the market looked pretty good. The averages kind of we're picking up, we're okay. So it's kind of boring. I think a boring market is probably the way to say it. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go check that out. And we're going to share this one. No, this one. Okay, here we go. So yeah, so today, what's going on? The big news really of the last, really of this week is that you had the NASDAQ really come roaring back. So the tech stocks really came back. So that kind of is, pretty good. But it's worth noting that, see, if you look at the SPY, the SPY is outperforming because it didn't go down nearly as much in its, so you compare that to the, NASDAQ composite. Why do you do that? If you compare, there's SPY, look how it's the top of its channel, it's almost overextended. And then NASDAQ is like, well, it kind of got the crap kicked out of it, but it recovered. So you see that kind of rotation, it's rotated. Some of the money is rotated back in the NASDAQ, so that kind of works out for it. So like the 3 months, the yield went down a little bit today, 1.65%. Like once again, the yield trend is still up, but we're definitely like kind of in a range right now for the last, 10 days or whatever. So we'll see if that kind of becomes a thing. For the week, you're looking at a pretty, significant outside down bar kind of day. So maybe that will be a short-term reversal on rates. And then the other thing too, look at the dollar. The dollar's kind of got beat up this week too. So that's a positive generally for stocks. You get the dollar getting beat up, you get rates coming down, tends to push up the market. So if we, and then our consumer staples, those consumer staples had gotten beaten up a little bit last week, but it's kind of hanging in there. And then, yeah, big picture, it's doing that. SPY, big picture, the weekly chart, yeah, it's just doing really, really good. Then we look at some of our high beta guys. So once again, the W in play, but the thing is, like this one, so ARK-K, couldn't even make it to the middle of the W, so it's kind of not so great, really. This one is more of a kind of this consolidating right now in phase. See, the thing is, like, these sort of had this W, but they're kind of like struggling here. They're really struggling. They haven't broken out of the 50. Some of these haven't broken out of the 50. So that's going to be, yeah, this one here. This one didn't even make a run. So this one's kind of in bad shape. GameStop is on its own, a little selling there, but it's holding. I don't know why it's holding. Then, NEO, a lot of EV space, a lot of same kind of W, and then Tesla. And, I had looked at Tesla too, and I'm still debating it. Like, I guess, the question is if you're going to buy something in the space, now might be the time to do it. Not financial advice at all, but I'm thinking about it. So this have a W, you kind of broke out above the W here, but then you came yet back down. So this may be like the old school, investors IBD type thing, may have a W with a little handle, called a little handle. And see, because what happens is if, you basically came came up a little bit, recovered, and then you came down again, you have a W. So here, this is like, this isn't like I don't think this is an IBD one, because the IBD one, they like it to undercut. This didn't undercut, but it sort of indicates it's stronger, right? But the thing is, it got up here, it couldn't really hold above that, and it can't hold above, it hasn't held above the 50s. But see this kind of sell off here? And so that's kind of the thing. That might be an opportunity. Like if this thing does find some legs, hits at this point and that point simultaneously, it has a chance of running above the average. So that kind of could be a setup. It could be a setup for something there, I'm thinking. And I guess the question is, look, I'm not a big Tesla boy fan or anything, and I know things are overvalued, but still, just from a purely swing trading type of setup, this maybe a setup. The thing is, look, it's downtrending in the short term, it's consolidating in the long term. You have the 50 coming down, but these can be powerful setups because you have like a consolidation. You have a resistance at this range that is now set up, and like if this thing does find support earlier rather than later, then you would have this situation where the shorts may have overextended here and overextended here. If they have, then it's possible it sets them up to like run the cover above the 50, which it could rapidly go. But you can never predict that. Very often it doesn't do that. It doesn't do those things. And then this one too, this one kind of looks like this is even a better setup a little bit. I mean, same kind of thing, came above, came back. So you have two different guys here that, you kind of could be a little set up for something, now maybe things are getting overextended, but these would be kind of gaming, maybe just, gaming it a little bit, something like that. That would sort of be what I'm thinking with that. So I think back into the big picture of the stock market, like everything's cool. It's just kind of, we're in this big run. The money's just, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. This is the biggest bull run probably ever. So something will break at some point is what I figure, but who knows? Who knows when? So now just clock project. So see, I'm going to go through everything today, Reno. So I was just doing a little more work on the clock project here. So I have some stuff, and I'm going to actually start prototyping pretty soon. Actually, I'm struggling. I have a real-time clock module, and what's interesting is I'm able to get it enabled, all that stuff, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that the clock isn't running, and I don't know why it's not running. And the clock is running to the device, clocks are running, blah, blah, blah. It's just the real-time clock module is not like incrementing the seconds. So I'm like, okay, why is it not doing that, even though it's enabled? So I'm trying to debug that problem right now. But here, basically, I went through and I kind of just made some decisions here on how many power supplies I'm going to have. So based on what I saw, I'm going to go with the higher wart thing. I'm going to go with the 20 volt, basically DC. So it's going to put it up there higher. So this boost converter can handle more current and stuff. And then I have the 5 volt supplies. I'm going to go with 3 of them, and I'm going to go 3 of the 1.5s. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to heat sink these guys because these are already pretty warm. We're only running 1 tube, and these are now going to have to run 2 tubes each. But the spec says it can do it. And then what I'm doing is I'm splitting things up into, the seconds, minutes, hours, days, etc. from the controller. So I'm in a bunch of other pins. And so I'm doing that. The other thing I have is after the optocouplers, I put these 74HC14. These are the Schmidt trigger inverters. So it kind of does a dual thing. The most important thing is I had this, it was unreliable. Basically what's happening is because the signal coming out of the optocouplers is so slow, when you have digital logic, if it spends too much time in the transition region, which is the region, if you're running on voltage, like we're down in chips, and like my work is down in chips, and we're at 0.6 volts, 0.7 volts, but like out here at the IO, you're like 1.8 volt, 3.3 volt, or 5 volt. And I'm using like 5 volt. And so, right around that zone, there's a zone in there where you want to get through it as quickly as possible, because in that position where the input is going to actually detect, like below 1 volt, for example, there's very little risk that it's going to think that it's high, and then above 4 volts, blah, 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 very little risk that it think it's low. So so as long as you transition through that middle part of the voltage, between 2 and 4 or 2 or 3 volts, usually it's okay. But if you linger in there, as I was showing before, where I linger around for 200 microseconds, that's a problem. So these things, I put these in, and these are really fast. So these Schmidt triggers, they just go the output. Once again, you're going to get propagation delay, but the outputs, they're switching really fast. So that looks like, when I look at the digits counting, it looks like it improved it. So that's all cool. And then And what was I thinking? So this was, I'm thinking about what to do with the design. Yeah, and then here from the top level, I'm kind of just trying to organize it a little bit better here. So what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to build like, so basically you have your main controller power board coming out and it's going to go and see, I have to split them to different digits, and the power, as I talked about before, that'll split the power. And then what I really want to do is try to make this block a pair of tubes and all the logic, just like forget it, boom. It's all just, it's basically going to be a dual digit module. And I would like to keep it replicatable. You know, basically each of these 2-digit modules are identical, right? So basically I'm going to have, you know, the dual carbs or whatever. This is going to be, these are identical for each of the tubes, and then how I drive them will control what they are. And then also the other thing is, like I talked about mapping, I'm just going to use control. I'm going to try to do like minimum wiring here. So you can see how I changed the wiring from what I had previously. So still working on that, and that will be coming up later. And then, so I think after that, I'm just going to random play some of this game board. So let's see what I'm doing. I'm trying to dig a new hole. I'm off to the side somewhere, trying to do a hole, diggy hole. Okay. See if I can find some diamonds somewhere. Something like that. Yeah, but like I was saying, the clock module, it's kind of weird. I know it's in there because I can see the registers, and it's like funny, I can read everything, but like it doesn't change the value. So I initialized it, enabled everything, and I can see it, the register is like enabled, but it's not counting. So I don't know what is going on. It's kind of weird because it just, I mean, actually the debugger's pretty good, but yet, you know, you have to kind of figure things out. Like, okay, you got to have this simulator instead of the actual device running and all that to like see what the register values are. I guess I'm not I'm not that used to it. Like, you know, the day job, I get the tools that are like, you know, on the more expensive side, and they kind of just high capacity, whatever, and they're kind of professional, so they do everything you want. This is more, I'm not, I like to pick stuff. It's great. And you can see why people use it, because they're so dirt cheap, you know. Like we just got a new dishwasher this week, and like if you're doing like a dishwasher, wow, oh, I almost died. Oh no. Oh, that wasn't good. That was not good. Yeah, like we got a dishwasher this week because the old one like started leaking and damaged our floor. Like if you guys ever have, you know, if you have like a floor, we have these, they look really nice. They're faux hardwood floors, and because, you know, we got it built from a new builder kind of a deal. And the thing is, what happens is, you know, they give you hardwood floors and they look really nice, but they have a veneer that is like, like 1/1000th of an inch of actual, the beautiful wood, and the rest of it's sort of like particle board underneath. And what happens is, what actually happens is that, you know, we had the dishwasher leak, and it just leaked a little bit, not even that much. I mean, so the thing is, what happens, like our hardwood floors go right, or they're in the kitchen and they go right up to everything. So here you are, you have a kitchen, and what is the main thing you're doing in the kitchen? I mean, what? Cooking, eating. Let's be more primal. You know, let's just talk about, you know, whatever the 4 elements: earth, wind, fire. Earth, wind. What is it? The 4 primal elements from like before, old school. Earth, wind, fire. Earth, wind, fire. Earth, wind, fire, wind. Yeah, that's earth. No, I just said wind, right? Earth, wind, whatever. But one of those is water. So the big thing is like, what are you doing in your kitchen, right? Nothing. Water, right? Using water. You're cooking. You're boiling water. Blah blah blah. Water. This, that, the other thing. Water and oil. And so, what is the one thing these floors don't like is water. And it gets compounded by the fact that it gets compounded from the fact that what happens is, the end of the boards are fresh cut, right? And so you have like the surface of the faux wood floor is like, it's waxed and stuff. So it has some protection against water. So if you like spill a little water on the surface of the floor, it's not a big deal. It's not going to warp the board. But the thing is, when you get a little bit of water on the edge of the board where it's been cut, there's no protection. There's no wax on that end. And so what happens is, even like, I swear there wasn't more than like a half cup of water on the floor, and it sucked up. The wood just sucks it up from the ends because it leaked under the dishwasher. And what's under the dishwasher? Oh, that's where the floor ends, right? And so the boards are exposed, the ends of the boards that aren't sealed, right? So the wood just sucks it all up. And what happens? The boards just warp. So now as you go to my kitchen and you go near the sink and the dishwasher, it's like, give me a break. You go there and you're like, oh, it's like the boards are warped. It's like you're walking on the deck of a ship that's got warped. It's like, I don't know. It's messed up. They're just all warped and it looks like crap. And it's like, and this is the second time this kind of thing has happened. It's like, so it's just one of the things with the new builders is like, look, if you have that choice, if you have a way to do a kitchen, you have tile. I mean, tile is better, right? Tile is basically waterproof, right? And of course, if you have a big problem where you have a big leak and there's an inch of water, yeah, you're screwed either way. You got problems. But, if you have a little bit of water, like not too much water, and, tile will hold up much better, right? So, yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on. And so going back to the PIC microcontrollers, what happens there is like, so if you were doing a controller for your, there's electronics in there. If you're doing a controller for your dishwasher, well, what are you going to do? You're not going to use a significant microprocessor. Like a dishwasher, do you need anything in real time? Really? No. I mean, you don't need anything in real time. I mean, it's funny because you look at these things and you press the button and it takes them, it takes like a couple seconds for it to respond. As a matter of fact, you just kind of get used to like, well, you press it really gently and then you just wait and you have to wait. And it's like kind of annoying to me because I expect that I would much prefer a tactile switch that goes click and lets you know that it acknowledges and then it immediately turns on a light, but that's not how it works. All these things, how do they work? They're really soft switch, which is whatever you call it. It's a touch switch, right? So it's capacitive touch or something like that, right? So basically, you just press it. There's no tactile feel to it. And then what it does, it takes like a couple seconds for it to respond, for even the light to come on. And so I assume what's happening in there, they have a little tiny controller like this. The capacitive touch will go through and it'll say, oh, capacitive touch waking up. And it wakes up. It literally interrupts the processor. The processor is like been totally asleep and it wakes it up. And although it doesn't take a long time, it takes like fractions of a second for it to like wake up, go figure out what button was pressed to wake it up and all that. So that's like a great example of a place that you would use one of these little tiny controllers, right? Because you want to make it cheap. And it's funny because I don't know, I'll take one of them apart and see, but like it just sort of, that's kind of what they have. And it's kind of funny because it's like, okay, look, these dishwashers are like hundreds of dollars, if not $1,000. And you can't put a little better, faster electronics in there, like respond a little faster or something. Like, no, they don't. It's kind of funny. I don't know. But so back to it. So that's why I'm using it, because it's like, hey, it's really great for these things. I mean, it's really good, right? Because you buy these in quantity. These things are, they can be sub a penny per chip. It's just about, a lot of it's about the memory, how much memory you need and stuff. And I'm sure the people that work, using these controllers for this stuff, I'm sure they're like, no, that's too expensive. And no, you have to you just optimize the crap out of it. Like for us, we don't optimize, like where I'm at, we don't optimize, over optimize stuff. We are willing, it's more worth it for us to have a little bit of hit, a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit more logic, a little bit more code space, all that stuff for clarity, because our things are so much more complicated. I mean, the dishwasher isn't really that complicated, but when you're dealing with things like, that are immensely complicated, high-speed interfaces, and you know, it's worth it to just look. You need to simplify the thing. And so we kind of like are willing to eat some gates and stuff like that. But like in these environments, I'm sure they're not. But yeah, so I haven't figured out how my real-time clock, why it's not working yet. Once I get that working, then I can actually just go implement and move on with that. And I think that yeah, because the idea would be, so the idea would be, let's see. So the idea would be is that basically, you know, as I pointed out, that we're going to have, what is it doing? Okay, so good. Ooh, look at that blink. Yeah, so basically it's going to be made up all these submodules. So I'm trying to like I like making things modular, right? So basically I have a design here for a two digits where you have a serial in, serial out. They're chained together, so each one is identical. You know, they're just totally identical, and then you can have as many as you want. And then up here in the controlling firmware is where you decide, well, which bits you connect up and then what you actually drive on those bits. I mean, there's essentially nothing different between the seconds, minutes, hours. It's all in the control that tells you what they do. So yeah, so I'm doing that modular, and then each one is just going to have a shift register and shift register driver, the whole deal like that. And then there's just little specs, you know, sort of you know, over here, S clock, S data, these will just be driven directly by either the previous lane or the next lane. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't draw that out, did I? Yeah, I did draw that out over here, which is fine. But, and then they'll just be standard HC logic. And then over here for the grid, though, the grid will be driven by, you know, a high drive UDN chip over here. So you just make a note of it, and just whatever it is, this consistency, you know, we have to communicate with ourselves, and if we're working in a team, we have to communicate. So just clearly document what we expect, that, you know, this grid, hey, is directly driving, so it better be driven by something that can handle the grid current for that. And then let's see, big picture here. Oh yeah, so this is actually a dual digit, and it's funny, I didn't zoom out to show dual digit. And I'm viewing from the top. It's funny, my computer's so slow right now. Okay, let's see. Can't even see my cursor. Yeah, so that's what each digit module will be. You have your two Nixie tubes over here. You have the upper and the lower, and we easily shift. It comes in through the upper, goes to the lower. And so, you know, that's what the firmware is gonna do, is like basically, I'm just going to do like my mapping. So what I'll have is I'll just be like, hey, dude, you know, it's just like, okay, every physical position, right? So obviously, if this was, for example, seconds, then the lower byte of the seconds needs to be shifted out first. So it ends up there where the upper is up here. And so you just make that all kind of configurable so that, you know, everything is simple. And then what you can do is then for testing, you know, different methods of testing the firmware, you can just have all the digits counting together or counting differently, and you can really just like test out the interface and make sure everything's working. And then what I'm thinking is I really want, so these are these other designs from these other companies that look really nice and stuff. This one, so I'm just kind of looking for wood, like samples of wood. I think my view is I like this one, this company, Gixie Clock. I like the wood. So I'm just using this example to get the wood. And they're using these Jixies. These are more modern things. And that's sort of, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. They're safer, they're newer, modern things. I don't know who makes them. Someone's making them, and they're modern, safer, whatever things, and these old school surplus new old stock from the former Russia. And then, but what I want to do is I want to do these boards with like a lot of wires and stuff external and try to make them look really nice. And I don't want to do a printed circuit board. So, I mean, I could do a printed circuit board, but I want like an old school kind of like hand manufactured kind of look to it. So what I'm trying to figure out a balance, right? Because if I use the wood, then I can't see anything. So I'm trying to figure out, well, how could I have the wood? And I probably need a steel case. See, there's a steel case out here too. So if I look in there, this kind of steel case, and then we have to have buttons and stuff like that. But then I'm trying to figure out like how can I mix that wood flavor with a plexiglass look below, where we can see some of the electronic wiring and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm screwing around with. But right now I don't even have the clock working, so I guess this is a clock. So the fact that my clock isn't working, I guess that could be a problem. Oh, well. All right, that's it for this one. Bye.